What is good, YouTube? To flask or not to flask? Now this is a video I've been avoiding for a while. Mainly for one reason. It's my biggest fear. A bunch of 12-year-olds will learn that you can use flasks and BGs and think to themselves, hey, I can get a bunch more kills and look badass to my friends. Before understanding how it could potentially affect themselves in a negative way and the players around them. Now for the purposes of explanation, I'm going to pull up a game on my DH from 7.2. Let me paint the picture for you. We just walked into Waterworks and got completely annihilated. I'd like to say this was after a bunch of losses or just getting beat up by a bunch of people with flasks, but I honestly don't remember, and this could have just been because I was triggered one afternoon. But basically, as soon as we flat out wipe, I just use a flask and we completely annihilate them. And then I think to myself, are we winning because of this flask? And is this really a fair win? Is this really what I want the game win to be on? Is this fair to the people that don't know that they actually can be used here? I honestly don't know. I feel like it really borders that barrier of using advantages that people don't know are advantages. And I mean, you could say it's an RPG, you know, if you're using the sword that some other guy doesn't even know existed and you wreck him with it, then that's just how she goes, man. That's your exploration versus his of the game. But, I don't know. This has been a thing since vanilla, I believe. I know it's been a thing since BC. There's been flasks in every expansion, and once you get an eye for them, you start seeing them in some PvP videos, and montages and stuff like that, where people casually are using them in the corner of their screen and just 2-shot kills, rampages, 20 and O's. And it's just like, yeah, but even if you're not doing it with a healer, if you're doing it with a flask, versus people that don't even know you can have that stat boost, then like, what are you proving? That you can beat up players that don't know as much about the game as you do? I don't know. That's the thing about random BGs. It's got a spice of PvE, in the sense that you have to explore the game a little bit to know like professions, to know like the potion vendors that you can actually buy BG potions. Like maybe even what all they are if you haven't even seen them all. Like goblin glider kits. Like if you're just a new player that's just here to PvP, like arenas and stuff like that, you're gonna miss out on a lot of the stuff you can do in random BGs. And I think that's where a lot of people get hung up. But I would say, I don't know, I'm getting off on a tangent here. I would say that's a good thing. Just because it kind of brings life into the actual game, right? Like as a PvPer, I would really have no reason to do anything PvE anymore at all, really, to like partake in PvP. And I don't think that's how a MMO should conduct itself, to be honest. I think that there being a non-rated, let me specify non-rated area where you can use all these items is a good thing. But knowing like, there's times I would say a flask is good to use, and times I would say a flask is not good to use. Alright? Right here, what I'm doing, I would say it's probably not a good time. Simply because I think I used it a little bit early, right? We probably would have been able to take the base, put in the work, it would have had a little bit more of a fair fight. I don't know, probably would have been a closer game. Now some people might say, what's the difference between a flask and BG potions? I would say, well, not a lot. But there is one big difference, and that is BG potions come at the end of BGs. So even players that don't go looking for what all they can use in Battlegrounds kind of have those thrown in their lap so they know they exist, right? Whereas I honestly didn't even realize you could flask in BGs until Legion. And this has been a thing since I know at least BC. So it's like, how many people still don't know this is a thing? Alright, let's cover the pros. You do more damage. You can potentially kill people easier. For pros, that's it. You got more kill potential, right? Now the cons, I believe, are a little bit more. Firstly, they cost probably about 280 gold, depending on what server you're on, per 1 hour. 2 hours if you are an actual alchemist that can make the flask itself. If you're waiting on Horde, like an 8-minute queue for BG, and the BG lasts probably about I don't know, 20 minutes-ish, maybe, if you're unlucky, then you're looking at about 2 games per flask, which isn't a lot. So one con would be the gold. Another potential con would be you get used to having the strength boost. Sometimes when I get CC'd and I'm turning, it locks my character turn, and I have to alt-tab really quick to be able to make it stop continuously turning. I'm not sure if other people are having that issue, but only happens to me now and then. I believe that happens a lot with the Demon Hunter and the Monk set. Almost give yourself a little bit of lax leeway, because it's mildly easier to kill people. You don't have to play as intensively, and all of a sudden you lose a mild amount of your edge. So when you go into arenas, if you've been doing this long term and you don't have the strength boost that you're used to, then things may not play out as they should. Another potential con. How do I phrase it? You continuously dominate your team to the extent that your opponents don't even want to play or queue anymore, and your queue times thus increase. I know a lot of people are like, yeah, crush the alliance, crush the horde, but we're all players just playing a game, and we all play to have fun. Remember that, right? You don't need to shit on your opponent to have fun. Let's try to maintain a healthy atmosphere so that we all have fun and everybody is queuing more so that we can get into PGs faster, right? That's what I want to see. Let's bring people into the game so that we get more queues quicker, not just make people hate PvP so that if they don't know maybe everything there is to know, like all the items you can use or the professions that have perks, and you just use those to crush them all the time and they never learn, they're just not going to want to participate in this, right? So at this point I notice that I'm just not feeling it. I don't want the deciding factor of this game to be based off of the flask, so I'm taking it back. I'm going back on the flask. Eventually it's going to die down, especially when subscribers are dipping. In the midpoint between patches, when people are bored as fuck before the season end has been declared and nobody really wants to just spam random arenas or just keep dredging on the same boss in mythics and everybody starts dying off, like that's when you want to keep the game healthy in PvP. That's when you want to keep queue times alive, right? So honestly, I find a lot of horde use them too, so it's not just like I'm running into a bunch of Flask Alliance heroes, though on Saturday nights, I swear to God, you got Alliance pre-mates using Flasks just trying to be champions. It's unreal. I'm not sure if it's the same perspective from Alliance to queue into that and get horde pre-mates just using Flasks, because honestly, I'm not usually queuing in with a lot of people on Saturday nights. And my teams don't tend to have those pre-mates in them, I tell you that. When should you use a Flask? Is using a flask bad? No. There are a few times when it's good, and a few times when it's not. I would say keep them on hand. When you're lower geared, I got a clip here from my mage while I was gearing him. I was using a flask and I pretty much got crushed and damaged by a lot of other people in the BG before I unlocked my second set of traits. The first one being that gives you 10% damage buff, right? Before you get that, I honestly don't think a flask puts in as much work as that 10% damage buff. So for the sake of getting a more fair game, if you don't have all your talents unlocked, then using a flask is a good way to do it. That being said, if you have everything unlocked and you're fully geared, I would say it's more beneficial for you as a player, even if you see flasked players, to try to challenge yourself to take them on without using one. And that's what I often do in my videos now. I have created a tell me when to track when someone is using a flask or not, so that I can prioritize using my cooldowns on people that are using flasks, just in case I'm a little concerned. That's just a strategy I've used to up my game versus flask players, but I feel like challenging yourself to take on somebody that can potentially do more than you is what pushes you to become a better player. Back in the day, it was when you fought people with half gear and they were fully geared that you got real player experience. And this is the same kind of setup. If you got people using flasks to try and do more damage, challenge yourself to crush them, because if you can come out on top, you know you're putting in more work than they are, even with their flask buff. But if you run into a pre-made of people using flasks, not just a random pre-made. If you run into a random pre-made, challenge yourself to beat them. But if you run into a random pre-made of people using flasks, I say flask up and be the hero your team needs you to be. I just want to throw 2 cents in there. I learned a lot of morals that I currently have from Dragon Ball Z, from watching it, from Goku if you will. And I would say Goku's biggest thing, besides like not wanting to kill anyone and always wanting to change people to good and shit like that, is he wants to see what people can do so that he learns to be better himself, right? When he fights somebody, he doesn't go full tilt. He fights at other people's levels to test what they can do, right? Because giving them a chance to surprise him allows him to learn and grow and become a better fighter. But if he just went in there and went Super Saiyan straight off the bat on somebody, sure, he could beat him because he didn't give somebody the chance to warm up and learn his style, but he also didn't learn anything from that person. He also didn't learn anything from that fight. I believe Goku thought there is something he could learn off every fighter. I believe that's the most important lesson. To keep learning, to keep pushing yourself, to keep challenging yourself. If you're better than your opponent, give them a shot, give them an opening. Let them see if they can do something, and then challenge yourself to overcome it. And if you don't, if you lose, well, there's always another game. But anyway guys, that's my 2 cents, and I'll let you decide whether you should flask or not. Probably always keep them on hand though, just in case. Especially on Saturday nights. Shit. But anyway, have a good one guys, and good luck in the beaches. Don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see more wacky content, and drop a like if I'm on the right track and you're having a good time. Anyways, have a good one guys, and Godspeed.